So could you very quickly tell us how your school got started in SL?
Yeah, sure. Well, my daughter Megan introduced me to Second Life, and I was very reluctant to investigate it. I didn't know anything about gaming or virtual worlds, but when I finally did jump in under pressure, my teacher lens kicked in, and I immediately saw that this could be huge for kids. And that was in 2004. And for almost a whole year, I always say I gave birth, for about 9 months, I scoured the internet for information and data and research that I could use to support the presentation to the administration that this would be truly a sound pedagogy to introduce. And it was scarce. There was scarce information out there. There was some available for higher ed, but since there were no schools on the teen grid yet, I pretty much relied on taking the higher ed information and kind of modding it down to relate to middle school and high school. And Barry Joseph from Global Kids was also a big help. And my administration really, they really asked the right questions. You know, I gave examples of how we could use it with our kids and with our curriculum. But they wanted to know, you know, how we could guarantee the kids' safety. They wanted to know, you know, how we could supervise the kids, that we wouldn't have any of the fear-based issues that, you know, that parents might object to. So I was proud that they asked the right questions, and I was able to, again, go over the differences in the main grid and the teen grid, and that there was no adult content on the teen grid, and that we truly would be a cloistered island unto ourselves, and that we would be totally private. And they were happy with that. The kind of a catch-22 there, that's a double-edged sword, that high level of security, because if we are truly trying to promote 21st century literacy, I personally believe that global collaborative piece is a foundation. And we have the world at our doorstep. We have an international student body at our doorstep, but our walls were up. So this year, I'm very happy to say we're taking baby steps towards bringing those walls down and looking into ways that we can invite other schools in to collaborate.
That's awesome, Peggy. You actually did a great job of answering the next question we had in mind, which was how you managed to sell it to your administration. So obviously being able to leverage the information you were able to find on the web for higher ed and repurpose it for your own use, admittedly to a administrator that was pro your previous ideas and very pro Peggy. Obviously, you said the right things and got the project started and are here where you are today. So it's absolutely a terrific story. Very briefly, can you share with us any particular stories that illustrate a really impactful result for your students in Second Life?
Oh, well, the one that I think is most dramatic, so many of them come to mind, but the one student-teacher story that comes to mind is one of our math projects, a flea market math project that my teacher Michelle McKiernan did. We set it up, a flea market, and we gave the kids a budget, and her classes all came in, and at the end of the second day, they were pretty much on their own, and Michelle came into my office after one of her classes, and she literally had tears in her eyes, and she said, "I can't believe I didn't do this sooner." And I said to her, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "My relationship with my students has totally changed." And she named a specific student, and we'll just call her Mary for now. And she said, and Mary. And I said, "What about Mary?" And she said, "Peggy, you don't know that Mary is selectively mute. And she has not spoken a word in class in years in a classroom. And yesterday and today in Second Life, she was typing up a storm, she was participating, you know, and that to me was just like a phenomenal specific result. In general, the teachers just report a highly increased level of engagement, of motivation, of ownership, and a much more profound level of discourse, that, you know, discussions that go on in Second Life, because the kids are functioning under their avatar identity. They tend to get very real very quickly and really speak from the heart and talk about what matters to them. The picture that you're looking at is actually an example of the learning that goes on outside of the regular scheduled classes. That picture is just a picture of a corner of one of our sims. When I logged out in the afternoon, that was green grass and blue water. And when I logged back in at about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, that was built by the students. So really, another lesson that I learned is, although you want to put up a lot of eye candy for the kids when you're building your island to bring them onto, what they really want to do is build themselves. And I learned that. So we have a lot of open land that we give the kids to build. This is an example of
lunch hour, right?
Yeah, this is an example of what my library looks like during lunch some days. The kids have lots of options during lunchtime to get passes to come down to the library to work on things, and lots of times they'll opt to go outside, which is terrific, and they have the fresh air and what have you. But that's usually because they can't get into the library. This is what the library, the Mac Lab, looks like at lunchtime. This is when the kids are on their own time, and it's always like this. The library is always full of kids coming in because a lot of their computers at home don't support Second Life. So we try to give them as ample opportunity as possible. And this is one of the tools that I always try to make sure teachers know about. This is called Decca's Decks. And it was designed by Decca Ma, who is Lindy McCune, an Australian educator. And she just got it. She realized that lots of times if you're having these discussions in a classroom, you have 25 different avatars in the chat. It's very hard to follow. It's hard for the kids to follow, hard for the teacher to keep track of. So these pods actually break away into the sky. And the 4 or 5 avatars in each pod can then have a discussion, and their chat is confined to just those 5. And it gets emailed directly to the teacher. Plus, the teacher can hop from pod to pod and facilitate and scaffold the conversation. So it's a great tool, and there's a lot of tools like that out there.
That's awesome. Thanks, Peg, for that quick overview.